Fellowship of the Broken, Making Sense of 12-Step Recovery by Angelo. Chapter 40, Step 8. Quote, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Close quote. Step 8 seems very simple, but as usual there's more to it than meets the eye. We tend to focus on making the list, but the real importance of Step 8 is the willingness. We should again take a look at some of the words. The word all means the whole extent or quantity. The word harmed means injured, damaged or caused ill effects. The word willing means ready, eager or prepared to do something. The words make amends mean to compensate or make up for a wrongdoing. So Step 8 is saying that we should compile a list of every single person to whom we have caused damage or ill effects, and that we should be ready and eager to make up for our wrongdoings and compensate them all in some way. The wording in the Big Book on Step 8 assumes that the list of persons whom we have harmed has already been made as part of Step 4. The fourth part of Step 4 is to look at harms done to others, so we should have this list readily available. We may wish, upon further reflection, to add to the list at this stage, but we should not be removing anyone. Addicts cause harm to others not only physically and financially, but often also emotionally. We greatly disturb the peace of mind of those who love and care about us, and we also have a tendency to let people down when we give priority to addictive behaviour. We may be tempted to believe that we've not caused much harm to anyone but ourselves. An honest look at our selfish and self-centered behaviour in the past will, however, almost certainly highlight many people who have been damaged in some way. A good suggestion here is to set aside our own thoughts and feelings and try to understand from the perspective of the other person. As the saying goes, we cannot really understand anyone until we walk a mile in their shoes. If we do this honestly, then we will begin to see how harmful our past behaviour has been. In the absence of willingness to make amends, the Big Book suggests that we should simply ask for such willingness until it comes. This asking implies prayer. There probably will be cases where the personal self does not want to make amends, hence the need for prayer to override the personal agenda and act in accordance with non-personal consciousness. Even if a situation in the past has only been partly down to our behaviour, we should nevertheless be prepared to make amends for our part. There's no time period specified, and some situations will be more problematic than others. But the implication here is that we should continue to pray for willingness until we become willing. The main block to willingness in respect of Step 8 is the fear of how our amends may be received, or the fear of even putting ourselves in danger by confronting old issues that may be dormant. Self-centered fear is the core driver of the personal ego self. Such fear is understandable from this perspective. However, we are now in the business of acting in accordance with the qualities of non-personal consciousness. Recognition of self-centered fear is itself a very useful practice of self-awareness. The noticing of such fear will highlight how the personal ego mind still dominates. The solution is the renewed surrender of the personal self through prayer. Ultimately, Step 8 is all about forgiveness. The word forgive means to cease feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offence, flaw or mistake. Often forgiveness is seen as transactional, in the sense that one person will forgive another only if the other person offers forgiveness first. This is a clash of personal ego minds, and neither is comfortable with being the first to concede. This logjam of forgiveness can leave resentments festering for many years, and even to the end of our lives. Step 8 is encouraging us to acknowledge our part in emotional harms done to others, and to be the first to act with forgiveness. If there are people that we think we can never forgive, then we should pray for specific willingness. A literal understanding of Step 8 would be that we already have our list of people whom we have harmed from Step 4, and we should now be willing to go out and make amends to them. A deeper understanding would be that we should take time to consider how much emotional harm we have caused to others through our active addiction, and also through our selfish and self-centered behavior in the past. This is likely to be a longer list than the one that we made when we did Step 4. This is because we now have the benefit of having worked through Steps 5, 6 and 7, and consequently have a better understanding of how the human ego inevitably creates conflict with other human egos. There can be no happiness, peace, love or unity in life if we continue to take everything personally. We cannot change other people, but we can begin to change ourselves. This should increase our willingness to make amends to those who have been impacted by our behaviour. The next level of understanding is that all-round forgiveness is highly desirable. Guilt, shame and bitterness are all obstacles to spiritual progress, because they keep us stuck in identification with the personal ego self. We have made the decision to surrender our personal agenda in favour of consciousness. We have seen how the exaggerated traits of the human ego mind have negatively impacted our experiences of life. We've been honest enough to expose and release our hidden selves. We have become willing to change, and we are choosing to act in accordance with the qualities of consciousness. Steps 4, 5, 6 and 7 have now led us to having to swallow our pride and make amends to everyone in the spirit of forgiveness, however much we feel that they have harmed us. We do not become willing to make amends so that we can feel better. This would be a selfish motive. We see that everyone makes mistakes and behaves selfishly. We see that everyone is identified as the personal ego self, and therefore thinks, feels and behaves accordingly. We have been making the same mistake. We now see it all through the eyes of forgiveness. We forgive ourselves, and we forgive others. It doesn't matter what they may or may not have done. We become ready and eager to make up for our wrongdoings in the past. It is a movement of identity in the direction of non-personal consciousness. It is the right thing to do. We become willing to make amends so that others may be healed. This is a selfless motive. This is progress. The deepest understanding of Step 8 would be that our willingness to make amends is an expression of the qualities of consciousness. This willingness on its own will raise the vibration of the individual body-mind and aid the process of transformation from personal ego mind to non-personal universal mind. The nature of consciousness is happiness, peace, love and unity. The qualities of consciousness are all expressions of this nature, and forgiveness is one of these expressions, and is obviously a higher vibration than fear, bitterness or resentment. As our own vibration increases, so resonance starts to attract more of the same. Our attitude of forgiveness towards others will invariably produce a similar reaction from them. This may not always be the case, and it will depend on how dark the shadow may be in the other person. This, however, is not important. Our task is simply to shine the light of forgiveness into all of our relationships. We do not need to explain why we are doing it. Every expression of higher consciousness adds to the collective vibration. Consciousness is unity itself and always seeks harmony. And this harmony will significantly enhance our experience of life, but this is not the motive. Our purpose is to be an expression of consciousness. Improved relationships are not the reason for making amends, but they are the inevitable byproduct of living by spiritual principles. Our willingness to forgive and make amends is a selfless expression of non-personal consciousness, even if we may not realize it at the time. The metamorphosis is taking place. Step 8 for me was a complete non-event. I had my list of people from step 4, and I was anxious about making amends to any of them. I certainly did not consider adding to the list, nor did I pray for willingness. I just moved straight into step 9 and conferred with my sponsor about which amends I should make first. I was keen to proceed, but my motives were selfish. It's only through experience and the blessing of wisdom that this understanding of step 8 has emerged. I can see that there are still people to whom I owe amends. There remains some personal anxiety, but this is swamped by a willingness to do the next right thing. I've learned to trust that life will present me with these opportunities to make amends when the time is right. It's not for me to force the issue. If I try to act too quickly, then my motives are unsound. Meanwhile, there is a strong sense of forgiveness for everything that has happened in this life, including my own thoughts, feelings, and behaviours. We do what we do in accordance with the level of consciousness that dominates at the time. It's only ever been a matter of over-identification with the personal self. Once the personal self begins to fade, then the true light of consciousness emerges, and forgiveness then becomes natural.